Hey guys, it's History Behind the Warrior and welcome to another Mortal Kombat 11 video. Now in today's video, with Joker only a few mere weeks away, I thought we could talk about the insane clown prince of crime, and more specifically the gear he could get, as well as the moves he could have in game. Now this, by all intents and purposes, is all theoretical. Nothing I say here is solid in stone, because we've only had a very brief look at the Joker from the Combat Pack reveal, as well as the very small tease we did have at the Game Awards. So that being said, the ideas that I do come across and put out here may not in fact make it in game. Instead, take this as a rather interesting analysis of what we've already seen and talk about what could come across and influence the character. Now since we are talking about the Joker here, there's one massive thing we do need to take into account, and that's how he's going to be given the somewhat crossover treatment. You see, it's well known that Mortal Kombat isn't the only fighting game that NRS creates, with their DC equivalent of course being the Injustice series. Although there are similarities in forms of combat, Injustice is more known for being a 3-button fighter with a special trait button that is tied to each character. Now that being said, this of course will not be applied to the Joker here, since Mortal Kombat is more of a 4-button fighter, and this crossover treatment was given to MK characters such as Scorpion, Sub-Zero and Raiden when they did make their guest appearances in Injustice 1 and 2. So really, for some of my ideas here to work, I'll be drawing some influence from the Injustice games, as well as some ideas of my own that could be incorporated in game. And of course, with the character being included in MK, that means we can dive into more of the sadistic side of the character. So age ratings and somewhat censoring what the character can do will definitely not be an issue here. Now first off, what is the fundamental core of the Joker? What weapons are iconic for the character? Well, one key weapon that we are accustomed to seeing with Joker is in fact the toxic gas he does have, something that is definitely iconic for the character and something he has been using for decades. It's typically how he destroys the lives of the innocent by twisting and contorting their view, and in many cases it pushes them over the edge, causing them to die from laughter. So that is something we will more than likely see. Now I've mentioned this a few times in previous videos, but a key item I definitely can see being incorporated is the crowbar, a weapon that was made iconic from the Death in the Family story arc, where he beat the second Robin, Jason Todd, to a bloody pulp. Now because of this, as well as the return of Todd in the Under the Red Hood storyline, it has been made iconic for the character, especially with Red Hood's popularity. So I suspect that the crowbar will return in one way, shape and form, despite the Joker already having a somewhat cane in game. Now a weapon I believe we can all expect to see is a somewhat prankster-esque gun, with a joke that's seemingly tied to it. We see this in MK vs DC with his quote-unquote fatality, and then we get to see it uncensored in MK9 where Shang Tsung does do this. So with that being said, what moves will carry across from previous fighting games that he's featured in? Well, as I said a moment ago, I believe the guns are given, since really everyone in MK11 does in fact have a projectile. Although the game doesn't focus heavily on keep away, it definitely feels like everyone has that one projectile, but they can use to contest with other keep away characters. And once again, NRS have made it rather clear that they do like the use of the gun. Now I believe that the crowbar charge will most likely return in one way, shape and form, and it may function in a similar manner, as it would serve as a way to be a combo ender. Now what's interesting is that in Injustice 2, Joker in fact did have two different parries, with one being assigned to a custom slot, whereas his default parry was a joy buzzer. Now the custom was in fact a knife parry. Now I can't say which one will be which, it really does depend on NRS's choice on how they wish to approach this character. If they wish to go for full psychopath Joker, I definitely see the knife being the best way to go. However, if they do wish to retain that somewhat slight campy humor, I can see the joy buzzer also making it in. Another tool I can see him having is a gas-like projectile, but I will be returning to this idea in a bit, as I feel there's a way to actually blend two of these concepts together that would work and in fact be beneficial. Now Harley Quinn being absent from the game, this could in fact mean that he would gain her command grab, where she turns you around and injects you with Joker toxin, and that's definitely something I can see happening. I can see Joker's back one shoe knife being one of the returning moves. It was a legacy move from Injustice 1 to 2, and again is clearly a move that a lot of developers do like, so I can expect to see that return. Now as for new moves, let's talk about some ideas I do have in mind. Number 1, cane normals. Now of course, with the very brief interaction with the Joker we've had, we know that it's clearly a callback to an older iteration of the character, where he did in fact have a cane. So this isn't the first time he has been seen with this. Now despite not having any supernatural abilities, I believe the cane could function as a poking tool, with maybe some ideas and concepts brought across from Bartitsu Borai Cho, as this asset is yet to be used for Mortal Kombat 11. My second idea is in fact a crowbar stance. Since it's quite clear that the cane will be a key part of his moveset, I can see them expanding on this idea if they were to incorporate a crowbar into his moveset. Now the crowbar itself could indeed function as a mix-up tool and stance. It could work and function as something to keep your opponent in check with an overhead or low, with the reward of a meter burn overhead in fact functioning much like a forward 3 from Injustice. So it would allow you to bounce and extend combos when the meter is spent, but this would be at the risk of it being extremely punishable, so it touches on the idea of risk versus reward. Now if I really wanted to somewhat push this idea, it may be given the ability to somewhat restand the opponent, which is extremely strong in MK11, but I think a stance that could have an overhead and a low, as well as restand capabilities, might be a little bit too strong. But again, this is just an idea. Now my third and final idea, which I could see happening, is actually a mix and blend of his gas projectiles and his chattering teeth. You see, in Injustice 2, the teeth function as an impressive combo extender and a way to set up hard blockables. Here I was thinking you could throw them out, and if you meter burn them, they could function like a timed bomb, much like MK9 Cyrax, but blockable. However, if you were to throw out the standard bomb, a fog of Joker toxin would rise from where it landed and form in that area, doing damage over time. So it combines the elements of the gas toss as well as the chattering teeth from Injustice. So in that sense, it would create some interesting setups. Now that we're done discussing Joker's possible moves, let's talk about the skins I think he could have in game. Now typically each DLC character has about 4 different skins with multiple different color palettes, and of course we already have seen one of the skins, that being his default one, and depending on what tone they actually want to give the character, if it's one that's sadistic and dark, I believe we could have a costume that would homage his casual attire in The Killing Joke, since not only is it a somewhat milestone in Batman's history, but it really pushed the limits and perception of what the Joker was as a character. It showed off the sadistic masochist he is, and what one bad day can do to a person. So I believe to somewhat honor the comics up to a certain extent, it wouldn't be a bad choice to have this costume be included. Now to also line him up with a more modern incarnation of the character, I do suspect we will be getting a new 52 skin of the character, more specifically the Joe Repair costume. Now this is a fan favorite design, due to the fact that Joker at this point has seemingly been completely consumed by his own madness, carving off his face and wearing it as a mask. The death of the family arc is seen as one of the highlights of the new 52 reboot, as it brought forth a far more sinister and vicious version of this character, whereas in previous incarnations at most he would attack members of the Bat family. In this arc he not only goes after Batman, but every single member of the Bat family, and even does turn on Harley Quinn, which isn't really anything new in that relationship, but the twisted way he breaks her character really does show how far they somewhat push this iteration. Now depending on the tone of the character will ultimately determine whether or not the skin is actually put in, but again, due to it being a fan favorite, I would suspect that it is in high demand, so I think the idea is on the table. Now of course the final one is going to be rather obvious, but it seems like a safe guess to make that with the release of the Joker DVD coming out soon, a Joaquin Phoenix skin will be made. Warner Brothers love their cross promotion, and with how this can go hand in hand with their own brand, it could benefit both sides. Joker received extremely positive reception from both audience and critics alike, and by doing this it means that Warners will be getting more eyes on their brand across the board. You see, it's somewhat the perfect time and opportunity for Warner to step up their game in the superhero field. The DC cinematic universe got off to a rough start, getting mixed reception from fans, but would slowly decline from film to film. However, it seemed like a change of pace once Aquaman was released, and Warner started doing their own thing. Now the MCU wrapping up their Infinity Saga, there is a somewhat gap in the market where recognizable faces can fill that. So I definitely feel like it's a great way to capitalize on the current superhero hype, as well as the fact that the Joker has been a massive success and will be out on Blu-ray and all of that jazz. But yes, this wraps up everything I did want to say here about the Joker. Now what are your thoughts on his inclusion? Are you happy he's here? Are you not? And how do you think he'll play? You think he'll get some legacy moves from Injustice 2? Or do you feel like he'll have an entire rehauled moveset? Please do comment down below. And also my final question, what skins do you think he'll have? Although I didn't include include my list here, I would like to see a Heath Ledger skin. The Dark Knight is one of my all-time favorite films, so I would like to see a homage to that film and actor in some way, shape and form. But yes, that is everything I did want to say here. Now, before this video wraps up, if possible, let's try getting it to about 500 likes, as it's honestly the best way of supporting this channel. And also, do not forget to tick that bell and subscribe, as it will keep you up to date with all the content I do have coming out. Now, as always, please comment, like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. Please take care, and I will see you all next time.